Hi, I'm Nir Eyal, and this is the Near and Far podcast. This podcast is about business, behavior, and the brain. On this show, I do a few things. I read quick articles I've written about topics shaping your behavior. I interview authors of books I enjoy, and from time to time, I devote episodes to answering your questions. If you want to ask me a question, visit the podcast page on iTunes, go to ratings and reviews, and ask me a question by leaving a review. I promise to read it and possibly include your question in a future episode, so please, ask me anything. Now, enjoy the episode, and for more, you can always visit me at nearandfar.com. This podcast is brought to you by X.AI. You know, a lot of times when you listen to a podcast, the host will recommend a product because they're the sponsors, and that's as simple as that. Well, I want to tell you about a product that I actually use. I've used it for about a year and a half now. It's called X.AI. X.AI is an artificial intelligence virtual assistant that will schedule your meetings for you. So every time I schedule a meeting, I don't play the email ping pong game back and forth. All I have to do is CC my virtual assistant at X.AI with a simple email address, and the artificial intelligence will take care of the rest. It's a great product, highly recommended. And right now you can get 1 month free by going to X.AI/near and far. And you want to enter in the discount code near and far. Now remember, near is spelled like my first name, N-I-R. Check that out at X.AI/near and far. Email Habits: How to Use Psychology to Regain Control by Nir Eyal and read by Nir Eyal. Richard Bach said, "You teach best what you most need to learn." I don't usually write about personal and revealing matters, but recently I've noticed something I don't like about myself. I check email too often. This confession doesn't come easily because, ironically, I am the author of a book titled Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products. It's a guidebook for designing technology people can't put down. There's just one problem: I can't put my technology down. I ritually check email when I wake up in the morning. If I'm out to lunch, I'll sneak a peek on my way to the restroom. I even look at my email when I'm stopped at a red light. And most troubling, I catch myself emailing instead of being fully present with the people I love most. My daughter recently caught me scrolling on my iPhone and asked, "Daddy, why are you on your phone so much?" I didn't have a good answer. I wish I could say I'm in full control of my habits, but I'm not. Although I know exactly why digital gadgets hook us, I wrote the book on it after all, that hasn't stopped me from overusing. It's not that email is bad per se, it's a tool like any other, but rather, I've recently noticed that how and when I use this tool is hurting instead of helping me. I've decided something needs to change. Of course, you pick your compulsion. What one person finds engrossing is utterly boring to someone else. Video games, spectator sports, social media, television, email compel some people and repel others. So it is. Not everyone struggles with email like I do, but my hope is that I can share some generalizable lessons. Here are a few ways I'm tackling my problem using what I know about the psychology of habits. Getting unhooked. In my book, Hooked, I describe how products form habits, behaviors done with little or no conscious thought. The impulse to use these products attaches to what I call an internal trigger. Internal triggers are cues informed by mental associations and memories. Certain places, situations, routines, and most frequently uncomfortable emotions all act as internal triggers. When we're lonely, we check Facebook. When we're uncertain, we Google. And when we're bored, we check YouTube, sports scores, Pinterest, or any number of other digital distractions. In my case, my unconscious email checking coincided with a particularly uncomfortable sensation. The urge to check is hardest to resist whenever I feel I should be elsewhere. This cognitive itch comes in barely perceptible waves of anxiety prompted by unanswered questions. Is there something important waiting for me in my inbox? Perhaps good news, perhaps bad. Maybe a quick response would scratch that itch to check. Even as I dictate this, I feel the urge to check my inbox. The holidays didn't help. The extended time away from work meant emails piled up unanswered. Furthermore, the potent mix of uncomfortable small talk with rarely seen relatives created a cocktail of dull disquietude. I felt the urge to check as Kin grasped for something to say between the forced smiles, sips of wine, and shuffling feet. While older members of the clan plugged their awkward pauses in conversation by bringing cocktail glasses to lips, the 20-somethings planted screens to their faces. I realized we were all conceivably using our booze and our phones for the same reason, a brief escape from a restless reality. Recognizing the internal trigger prompting the habit helped me confront the urge. Although I haven't quite figured out what to do with the social anxiety I need to escape quite yet, I'm attempting to become more aware of it. Simply acknowledging the sensation can be a way of disarming the power of the trigger. Burying the triggers. I've been looking for practical ways to put my mind at ease. For one, I have designated time on my calendar for email. I now schedule a daily meeting with my inbox, as opposed to letting messages barge into my life throughout the day. When I feel the need to check, I remind myself I'll get to it soon and that there's an appointed time for it. While internal triggers cue behaviors through mental association, there is another type of trigger I have to deal with if I want to break the habit. External triggers prompt action by telling the user what to do next. The notifications, icons, and buttons we see throughout our day tell us to check, open, and respond. Sometimes these notifications are helpful, but other times they are not. These digital tidbits can needlessly distract us. I knew what I had to do. Remove the external triggers prompting me to check email. However, actually doing what I knew I had to do was harder than I expected. I'd stopped charging my phone by my bed for some time, so that was no longer a problem. But to go a step further, I turned off email notifications on my phone. Not seeing the red jewel hovering over the Gmail app icon on my phone would reduce the temptation, or so I thought. Unfortunately, the idea backfired. The app icon was still on my home screen, implicitly telling me what to do every time I used the phone. "Open me. I have something special for you," it seemed to scream. Although I can't kill the email app on my iPhone completely, Apple doesn't allow it, I did the next best thing. I buried it. Dr. B.J. Fogg of Stanford's Persuasive Technology Lab posits that making a behavior harder to do makes it less likely to occur. I looked for ways to make opening email more difficult. Surprisingly, I found just adding a few extra steps makes me less likely to check my email. By moving the email icon to the second page of a nested group, opening the app requires a bit more effort. Opposed to the one tap needed to open it before, now I need to open the group, swipe to the right, and tap on the app. Remarkably, adding just 2 more steps actually makes a difference. Not only is Gmail no longer staring me in the face every time I check my phone, but the extra steps give me a bit more time to think about whether opening email is really necessary at that moment. Ebbing the flow. Finally, I looked for ways to reduce the number of incoming messages. The fewer messages that come in, the less tempted I am to respond. First, I turned on my email's vacation responder so that everyone who emails me receives an automatic reply, even when I'm not on vacation. My immediate return message includes a list of answers to questions I frequently receive. For example, I discovered that a sizable chunk of emails are from readers and entrepreneurs who'd like to know how to schedule time to talk with me. Instead of attempting to slog through the dozens of email volleys, I provide a link to an online calendar anyone can use to schedule time with me. The robo-responder helps reduce email volume by directing people with appropriate information, as well as reducing the inevitable email flurry that follows a subject line like, "Time to chat? A work in progress." This is uncharted territory for me. I usually stick to teaching businesses how to make their products stickier, and since most companies struggle with customer engagement, my work has been eagerly received. However, in this case, I want to free myself from the urge to overuse technology. When it comes to wrestling back control over digital devices, I admit I don't have all the answers yet. What I do know is that I'd like to change this aspect of my life. Figuring out when, where, and how to use technology is still an open question both personally and societally. What we all want is to control our habits rather than allow them to control us. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Near and Far podcast. You can always find more at my blog, nearandfar.com. And don't forget, if you have a question you'd like me to explore in a future episode, leave me your question in the form of a review for the podcast on iTunes.